What is up, everyone? Welcome into ADC Sports Dallas Primetime on this Wednesday night. Not at 8 p.m. Central exactly, more like 8:15-ish a la Skywalker, still in his own words, but ready to talk some Dallas Cowboys football with you guys. We will focus on Trevon Diggs tonight, where he ranked in a specific ranking of Pro Football Focus, why it's being controversial, and some numbers to defend the hate that Trevon Diggs has continuously dealt with after a second year in the NFL in which he got his 11 interceptions, and yet some stats are used against him time on and time again. What is up, everyone? Welcome into the show. Let me shout out some people here in the YouTube chat, in the Facebook chat, starting by, of course, Charlene Evans. Now, that is a one cool thing. Thank you for your comment, for your donation, Charlene Evans, making it rain, as someone said in the YouTube chat. Shout out to Charlene, who's always watching the shows, both the morning show and the primetime show. I truly appreciate it. What is up, Charlie? Thank you for that. Gregory, Samuel, Toxic Tom, Ryan Doyle saying, sorry, folks, slight delay. Mo is shaving. What is up, everyone, over there at Facebook as well? Kenneth Fraser. We've got Alice Chalk, as always. Tommy, this is going to happen. Well, you're on Sky Time now. Oh, am I on Sky Time? Maybe that's what happened on this Wednesday night. Anyways, let's get this show started officially now that more of us are here. Smash the like button, and here we go. What is up, everyone? Welcome into ADC Sports Dallas Primetime, as every Sunday through Thursday night, streaming with you live at 8 p.m. Central here on Dallas On Demand Sports Talk Network, with a lot more content coming your way throughout the entire offseason. Make sure that you check out adcsports.com/Dallas. It is already Wednesday, third week of OTAs. We're getting closer and closer to mandatory minicamp. Then we'll be closer and closer to training camp late in July. And before you know it, we'll be in the NFL regular season. But before that, we have a lot to talk about. And tonight, we will focus on Trevon Diggs, cornerback for the Cowboys, that has seemingly become one of the most polarizing players on America's team. Because you've got most of the fan base supporting Trevon Diggs because of what he's done with the team. 11 picks, first time in a long time someone even got near to that mark. We know that there are also some stats used against him, mainly yards allowed, penalties, all of that, some of the big plays that Trevon Diggs has allowed. We know that people have used the term risk taker to describe Trevon Diggs as a player in the NFL. And then you've got the extremes, right? Because as I said, most of the fan base is into Trevon Diggs. Most of the fan base support Trevon. But then you have one of the extremes that some people are calling him, a top 3 cornerback in the league. And that might be a little too much. And then there's also the other extreme that's calling him basically a bad football player that's just gotten lucky with some picks. Both of those extremes are obviously wrong, in my opinion. But we'll talk about some of the hate that Trevon Diggs has got thrown his way. We'll discuss all of that. A small parenthesis, though, because I needed to reread this comment again before I knew if it was true. But Professor O giving us some important stats says Madden 23 has our old pro punter Brian Anger as a 75 overall. That doesn't necessarily surprise me. Here's what surprises me. Terrence Steele, a 55, with Tyler Smith coming in at a 61. I'm surprised at that. I'm surprised at both of those numbers. Now, Professor O clears the air a little bit and says that's at least in the beta. Maybe sometime when we get the official numbers, I will make a show out of the Madden ratings. Even though I have not played in a while, I always like to break these things down. Call me a geek, but that's what I like. So, yeah. Top three, Samuel Rowe. He is the best in my opinion, Samuel Rowe. There you go. As I said, Trevon Diggs, always a, always the polarizing player in the Cowboys. Once again, before I move on with the Trevon Diggs conversation, let me do it once more. Let me shout out Charlene Evans and thank her for the comment and the donation because she started the show off strong. Shout out to Charlene and thank you for being here tonight. But anyways, let's talk about Trevon Diggs. And mainly, here's what I want to discuss. PFF ranked outside cornerbacks around the league in different tiers. Trevon Diggs, as you guys know, has not been liked very much by PFF specifically. And the grades that Pro Football Focus hands out have not been friendly to Trevon Diggs. In fact, overall, he has the 80th grade in the NFL out of every eligible cornerback. If you narrow it down to just the coverage grades, it gets better, but it isn't good. He ranks at 50th in the NFL. So we know that PFF has more or less been at the forefront of the conversation around Trevon Diggs because their grades have been generally very negative to the Cowboys cornerback. So it should come as no surprise that PFF doesn't rank in the top tier among cornerbacks in the NFL. That's not a surprise to me. He doesn't rank in the second tier either. That maybe is a little bit of a surprise. He doesn't even rank in the third tier of the rankings. He is a tier 4 cornerback for PFF. We'll provide some context on this, though, in a few moments here because it's important to understand the titles of each and every single one of these tiers. So according to the PFF, Trevon Diggs comes in as the 21st best cornerback in the league. He belongs to tier 4 in this ranking that's titled Good Cornerback, Good Player with Boom or Bust Tendencies. To provide some context to you guys, tier number 3 is veterans that still have gas left in the tank. So you have players like maybe Marcus Peters that maybe were elite at some point, but now there are a few question marks here and there based on their age. But just because of that title, you can guess that Trevon Diggs was not even eligible to be a part of tier 3. Tier number 1 is elite. And I can see that. I can see why someone wouldn't call Trevon Diggs an elite cornerback. I can get behind that. I don't know if I would call Trevon Diggs an elite cornerback. I think he will be at some point. I'm not entirely sure about it being the case in 2022. Because even though I love the interceptions and all of that, I am a statistician. I like stats. You guys know this. I've said it multiple times. I'm sort of a sports nerd on that aspect. And I am aware that maybe takeaways are a little bit volatile, and I'm not entirely sure that he will be able to have those sort of numbers. Maybe not 11 interceptions exactly, but even getting close to that seems unlikely just because of how stats work. So in my mind, I get why we're not ready to call him elite. Some of us. I also understand why some of us are ready to give him that title, including Tommy915 here. 11 inch says he's elite. Says Tommy. We also had a comment over here from Professor O saying that he believes cornerbacks is elite because of the most important stat in football, takeaways. Don't care about yardage whatsoever. Now, Domestic says, y'all smoking. I want to see you get one pick in an NFL game. Now, let it be clear that not because I'm not ready to call Trevon Diggs, an elite cornerback doesn't mean that I'm even suggesting that I would forget about a pick for a moment here. I'm not even sure that I could get a minus 10-yard rush in the NFL with the best of offensive linemen, right? So all kidding aside, though, that's what I mean. So takeaways are, of course, and I agree with Professor O on that front, the most important stat in football, if you are a cornerback more than anything, right? That's the most important stat. But I would hesitate to believe that that will be a number that you're capable of sustaining over the long term. Just and not because he's named Trevon Diggs. We could be talking about Jalen Ramsey here, or we could be talking about several other cornerbacks that are considered elite by many. And I would say the same thing. It's like if any other edge rusher goes out there and gets 20 sacks on a single season, my reaction would be, I don't know if he will get that again, just because of how the number, works out and how these stats are volatile and they change year over year. However, I think tier 4 and being the 21st cornerback by PFF, it's kind of disrespectful. And here's a question from me to you guys. Truth or false? Trevon Diggs belongs in tier 2, which is in the cusp of being elite. Do you think that's truth or false? Trevon Diggs is in the cusp of being elite. Let me know what you guys think on that front. Ryan Doyle says Diggs actually has good hands for a corner. I would say his catch ratio is pretty high. And we know that he was originally a wide receiver. Nick Saban talked to him about transitioning to cornerback, and that turned out to be the best option for Trevon Diggs, apparently, just based on how he's been able to play. Professor O's truth, Samuel Rose's truth. Toxic Tom says, I would lean towards true. False because he's the best corner in the NFL already, says Tommy915. Craig says, I think tier 3 would be fair. So somewhere in between for Craig there. Samuel Rose says, I hate PFF and I'm an analytics guy. Using bootleg math doesn't make you right. True, you can disregard the ints. That's right. I agree with Toxic here. He isn't the best corner in the NFL yet. I would struggle a lot to make that case for him. And maybe I would even struggle for him being, a top 3 cornerback and top 5. That's something that I would struggle with a little bit. But my answer is truth. I think Trevon Diggs is truly in the cusp of being elite. And shout out to Shane Carter, ADC Sports writer, that had these very, very insightful statistics on Trevon Diggs. He was targeted 103 times. A pick or a pass deflection on 32 attempts. That's a 31% mark for Trevon Diggs. He gave up 54 catches, but never allowed over 100 yards in a single game. He was the 8th most targeted defensive back. I would argue that that's maybe one of the things that you want to see less of. You want to see less targets headed Trevon Diggs' way, because maybe that would mean a little bit more respect for the Cowboys cornerback. And here it goes, the 7th best passer rating allowed. This is according to Shane Carter. To me, Trevon Diggs is clearly on the cusp of being elite. And I also believe that, he's allowed some of these big plays, but I don't know if you guys caught that next-gen stats chart in which they signaled that a lot of those yards allowed also came in prevent defense kind of time. When it was garbage time during a game, that's when Trevon Diggs gave up almost half of the yardage that he actually ended up giving up, and the number that's been used against him time and time again. Now, also worth mentioning that I don't know if the takeaways will stay as consistent as they were in 2021. As I said, I hesitate to believe so, just because of how the numbers behave in the bigger picture. And yet, you cannot ignore the fact that these were not lucky picks that Trevon Diggs had. Maybe some of them. I mean, who doesn't get lucky picks here and there. Some of them are, just opportunity based. But also, man, Trevon Diggs made some plays on the ball. Even like I'm thinking about that Chargers game in week 2 when Trevon Diggs basically dived for the ball in the middle of the field to take it away. There were some athletic interceptions for Trevon Diggs that were all him. They were all good plays by him, and not just opportunity based because of a quarterback mistake. A lot of them were great playmaking skills by Trevon. So I'm going to go with truth. I will say that, Trevon Diggs on the cusp of being elite, but I cannot put him there yet. I can't. More than anything, because of the fact that I cannot call him a shutdown cornerback just yet. He held several very good wide receivers to very decent numbers. I would struggle to name him an elite cornerback, but he's close. That will be my final takeaway. Ryan Doyle says, let's see some of your thoughts here in the show. Ryan says, Diggs should get his ints this year with the pressure we can put on quarterbacks with Micah Parsons, D-Law, Sam Williams, Armstrong, and Rudy. There you go, Ryan. But, when looking at it as a unit, and we had a show about this not that long ago when I named the Cowboys defensive backs some of the most disrespected unit on the team. When you break it down into how the defensive backfield or the Cowboys pass defense performed, they were one of the best units in the entire league. And that, more than anything, has to do with Trevon Diggs, with him being the number one cornerback, right? But even when you take away the weight of the interceptions and you talk strictly success rate, which measures an incomplete pass the same way that it measures an interception, a pick six, basically, it would measure them the same. It's just how many of the plays were successful. The Cowboys were still one of the best defenses. And even when the Cowboys didn't pressure the quarterback, according to Sports Info Solutions, they were still one of the most efficient pass defenses in the league. So I agree with what Ryan said there on Diggs getting picks this year with the pressure that Dallas can make, but they will also be an efficient pass defense even if the pressure is not there, based on what we saw in 2021. Let's see some of your comments here. Dallas Cowboys 365 saying he's new here. We're live every Sunday through Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central Time. Welcome into the show. My friend Skywalker Seal is here every morning. So make sure you check that out as well. Or I don't know if you mean exclusively to prime time. Michael says, I haven't seen you in a long time. You're a great kid. Oh, thank you to Michael for that comment. I appreciate it. Let's see. Bruce says, if Diggs has another great season, you have to say he's elite at what he does. I can get behind that statement as well. And hopefully that is the case. Now, before we close the page on Trevon Diggs, before we close the page on that, let me tell you what surprised me the most about this PFF list. It's not that Trevon Diggs was ranked in tier 4. I mean, maybe I wasn't surprised by it because PFF, once again, has been at the forefront of this whole negative talk about Trevon Diggs. And they provided context, to be fair. They provided context and they've said, it's because he's had some busts here and there. He's had the penalties against them, which that criticism is more than fair. I get the question marks on the yards allowed numbers. The penalties, that's a fair criticism to point out for Trevon Diggs. So I'm not surprised at him being on tier 4. I'm not surprised at him being the 21st best outside cornerback in the league. But I'm surprised by the fact that Byron Jones and Chidobe Awuzie, 2 former Dallas Cowboys corners, ranked above Trevon Diggs in these rankings. And I loved what Chidobe Awuzie did for the Bengals last year. I've always liked Byron Jones. I thought it was a big mistake to let him go when the Cowboys let him go. I don't know that I would rank them above Trevon Diggs, though. I would consider upside, and I would put Trevon Diggs ahead of those two. I like them both. Do not get me wrong. I just think that Trevon Diggs should be ranked a little bit higher. Both are on tier 4, by the way, so the three of them are on the same tier. But Byron Jones is 20th, one spot ahead of Trevon Diggs. And then Chidobe Awuzie is 18th, which is the best for a tier 4 cornerback in the league. Yeah. Let's see. Johnny says, what was the Cowboys scoring rate of them interceptions? Is what's not mentioned. It was like a 90% rate. The Cowboys scared of his ins. I'll take them yards. He gives up any day for the points we scored of the interceptions. That's one of the most positive things as well, that the Cowboys were able to capitalize on Trevon Diggs' super coverage skills in 2021. So yeah, the Trevon Diggs hate will continue. Have no doubt about that. Make no mistake about that. Get ready for that, and we'll see what happens next. But anyways, before we get out of here, we'll do one cool thing in a few moments here on the show, but also in case you missed it, Cooper Kupp got signed to an extension, and it's a 3-year deal, by the way, for the Los Angeles Rams wide receiver. I have the details right here. 3 years, for $75 million in guarantees, $80 million total for the Rams wide receiver. Now, this is a 3-year extension over the 2 years that he had left on his deal. So pretty much $110 million over the next 5 years for Cooper Kupp. Now, it's not that close. The Cowboys cannot do anything about it this offseason. But those wide receiver numbers are definitely catching our eye as we get closer and closer to CeeDee Lamb negotiation territory. And once again, it will not happen this year. I'm just saying we're keeping an eye out on those wide receivers and how much they're getting paid. Let's see. Domestic says, PFF says Tua is a top 5 quarterback. Do they, though? Do they? I didn't know. I didn't know that. And if they do, then that's definitely a hot take by PFF. I wonder if it's in a specific stat category, or if domestic means just overall as a quarterback, because yeah, that would be controversial. Every interception flips the field, says Bruce, stops the opponent from scoring and gives the ball to the Cowboys offense. I love it. Yeah, and make no mistake about it. Let's make that clear just before we, turn the page, because, here on Primetime, we're always covering the Cowboys. That's the goal. But also, I will always try to be as unbiased as I can be when I'm in front of that camera and when I'm in front of this microphone. So I want to make this very clear so we can have smarter and smarter conversations around Trevon Diggs. No one, not even the Trevon Diggs haters, are questioning how worthy are Trevon Diggs interceptions. And that is important to understand. What the haters debate, or even the non-haters like myself, a point that I believe it's worth discussing is the fact that, all right, yes, in 2021, those picks were super valuable to the team, and they were a big reason why the Cowboys went and won 12 games in the regular season. Sure. But the question is not how valuable those picks in 2021 were, but how sustainable is it for a player to get similar numbers again? Forget about matching the 11 picks. But it's unlikely that Trevon Diggs has 9 picks in 2022. And once more, not because of Dallas, not because of Trevon Diggs himself. Forget about the skill set, forget about the tape, forget about all of that. Even the best cornerbacks and cornerbacks that have gotten a high number of interceptions on a single season, they usually don't follow it up because it's a volatile stat and a stat that also depends on whatever is going on the other side of the field. And the cornerbacks that we see in the elite conversation most of the time are the cornerbacks that are not getting the ball thrown their way. So once more, I'm not, hating on Trevon Diggs or anything like that. I'm just trying to further a smarter conversation around Trevon Diggs. Just what I wanted to, make clear before we moved on. Because I'm seeing a lot of comments like defending the interceptions and how valuable they were. But the point to me is that people are not really arguing about that, not even the haters. Toxic Tom says, Mo, Stephen Jones cares more about the cap than actually winning. Change my mind. All caps for Toxic Tom there. I don't think you will get a lot of, controversy going on there, Toxic. A lot of people will agree. Anyways, before we get out of here, as we do about this time every Wednesday night, we will have the one cool thing of the week. So that means for those of you who are new to the show, it's sort of a feel-good space before we close out the show. What is your one cool thing of the week? It can be something personal. It can be something professional, sports-related, non-sports-related, whatever you want it to be. What is your one cool thing of the week? Let me know in the comments whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. And by the way, hit the like button, share the stream if you're watching and enjoying the show. But every like allows us to put this show in front of more Cowboys fans as we continue to grow the ADC Sports Dallas community. So what is your one cool thing of the week? And Charlene Evans started us off with a very cool thing with her comment and her donation, and she said that was the one cool thing of the week. I agree. I will give you another one though, and this is a personal one. Neil Gaiman has always been my favorite author ever since I picked up a book of his when I was 10 years old. That was the first book I read by my, without it being a school chore. And the Sandman trailer has been released for Netflix, and I'm looking forward to it. I have never read the comics because I've read every single Neil Gaiman book that there is out there, every novel, every short story collection. I've never gotten my hands on his comics, but I got it recently, and I will start reading it tonight. One cool thing for Professor O, just booked my flight to Dallas to take my son Felix to the Cowboys youth football training camp. That's amazing. Toxic says, taking the missus on a date this weekend. She has been working hard, her tail off, and needs a break. That's definitely one cool thing. I hope you enjoy that, Toxic, and the same for the missus, as you said. Let's see. New Taco Bell in Minnesota, really cool. Bruce says, I've been on vacay for 5 days and didn't accomplish a damn thing, but spending time with the family and relaxing made it worth it. That's an achievement at the end of the day, Bruce. That is a cool thing. Shout out to you for that. Tommy says, my wife made my favorite food tonight for dinner. Hope you enjoy that. So anyways, thank you guys. Thank you for your one cool thing. Make sure that you hit the like button, share the stream, and I will see you tomorrow night to close out the primetime week here in the channel. Make sure that you hit the like button, share the stream. I'm your host, Mauricio Rodriguez, and I will see you tomorrow night. Thank you very much, and shout out to the podcast audience as well. See you guys.